Welcome to the Outsmart Burnout podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Zaria Rubin, a functional medicine doctor, an international speaker, and a burnout badass because I've been there myself. After walking away from my own high-stress medical career, I discovered how to break free from burnout to reclaim my passion, purpose, and joy. And now I'm here to help you do the same. From science-backed tips to time-saving hacks, and hopefully some aha moments that just might change your life. So sit back, relax, and let's do this. Serena Arora is an Ayurvedic health practitioner and yoga therapist with over 25 years of experience, as well as the best-selling author of Unbound, a personal memoir about her burnout journey. She's dedicated much of her career to guiding transformation, both at her retreat center in Costa Rica and across the globe. She helps women reconnect with their bodies through Ayurveda and yoga therapy, addressing burnout, seasonal shifts, and life transitions by teaching us to align with the body's natural rhythms rather than pushing against them. Unbound chronicles her own burnout recovery, reclaiming her health, identity, and worth as a mixed race immigrant daughter. I personally cannot wait to dive into this conversation. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Right now, I'm in Canada, just taking care of my elderly parents. So, as
Yeah.
part of this season of life, that's, what I feel called to do. And so, while we have this, wellness retreat center for people to stay and come to Costa Rica and have this expansive transformational experience. At the same time, as I care for them, I'm also in this season where I my parents are in the last chapter of their life and they're facing a different kind of transformation. And so for me to be there for both of these um, people in different seasons of their life, I feel that that's really my work. Everyone's in a different season, and so what is the medicine that person needs in that moment of their life? And so it's, I'm really just living what I preach. So
I
and
love
taking care
it.
of
I
me as
love it.
well, taking care of the caregiver, because I'm sure a lot of people in your audience are caregivers as well. And care as caregivers, oftentimes our needs are responded to last. And so, yeah, so I'm really navigating that balance to be able to care for people, but also keep giving myself what I need in the process.
Mm. Yeah, so important. Put
Mm,
your own oxygen mask on first, I always
right,
say. But yeah.
right. Hmm.
So, tell us a little bit about your journey into yoga therapy and Ayurveda, and maybe give us a little bit of a background on those things. It's so interesting because the universe is.
Okay, great. So my dad is from India, and my mom is Chinese, and so through my lineage, I have always been practicing Ayurveda. I just didn't know it had a name. So as a child, my dad would give us certain foods or herbs or spices or make different concoctions of, like, if we were, depending on the season, or if we were feeling a certain way, and we were very rarely sick. I do, going back as I was writing my book, I was like, do remember just being very happy and healthy and not really, feeling any kind of illness or dis-ease, like not feeling at ease. And I do believe that that was part and parcel. It was due to my environment and my diet. And and of course this practice that was passed down from my grandparents. My grandmother would do those practices for my dad and his siblings, and then he just inadvertently did it for us. And I think also he didn't really know where and why, or the reasons behind it necessarily, or the Ayurvedic principles behind it, but he knew it worked because he had lived it and experienced it. And so he would pass those practices down to us. And I would do yoga. We would do yoga together. I was very little. I would be 3, 4 years old, and we would practice yoga in our living room. And then I went to school, and I grew up in Western Canada, in a very white world in the 70s and 80s. And I did not, I really believed other people did yoga, and they didn't. So for me, I let that go for a while, and I came back to it in my 20s, and I started practicing yoga. I went to a yoga teacher training, and I was like, okay, I was teaching fitness, and so it just made sense that I would teach yoga. And when I started practicing again, it all came back from to me, this innate feeling that had always had. And so it was very natural for me to progress. The progression of teaching yoga was really natural for me. And then very early on in my yoga teaching career, I found yoga therapy because I think as a young child, when I was using this food as medicine, for example, and then I was using yoga as medicine, it made only sense that we would practice, or we would do the practices to create balance in whatever state that we're already in. And so the therapeutic part of yoga just made sense to me. And so I delved deeper into yoga therapy quite early, into my yoga career. And so I've been a yoga therapist for over 26 years. And it's been a beautiful marriage later on with the Ayurveda, that I was able to marry those two things together and be able to use Ayurveda, the yoga sister science, and yoga therapy as medicine, as therapy for to create balance, to bring harmony, to educate people about what, if they're getting the signs and symptoms, your body is always speaking to you. And so what is your body attempting or trying to tell you? And when you can pause and listen and hear what your body is saying with the Ayurveda and the yoga therapy, you can then understand what your is needed in order for your body to get back to a state of harmony and ease. And that's what we're looking for, is ease. Ease in the channels from mouth to anus, ease in the digestive systems, ease in the nervous system, ease in the endocrine systems, in the reproductive systems. So when we don't have ease, something is off, and your body is trying to tell you that. And so how do you bring in the medicine that is, that through food, through environment, through lifestyle changes, that will bring your body back to a state of ease?
Mm. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so fascinating because there are all of these ancient practices, and then there's the more conventional Western medicine, which I was trained in. And then I was also trained in functional medicine, which is kind of, more similar to some of these other practices about really trying to listen to your body and understand what is out of balance and what is at the root of it, and what is causing or contributing to this, rather than just simply looking at surface level symptoms. Because if
Right.
you're always putting a band-aid on things and treating just the top level, you may be just chasing like whack-a-mole and not
Mhm.
necessarily get to the deeper cause, and it may just be the same thing manifesting in different ways. So tell us a
Exactly.
little bit more about Ayurveda and what it is, and what are some of the key principles, so that folks who are listening can learn more about it.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I just to say, I want to acknowledge that I love that that is your perspective, because as trained in Western medicine, it's easier to sort of not look at that perspective, to say like what is the root cause of what we're feeling, because it can tend to be a whack-a-mole game, and then we just run in circles, and then we don't get the answers that we want, but we're really, the answers are within us. And so if we can just pause, I love that. That's what Ayurveda really is. Ayurveda is the science of life. um, no biggie, just life. and 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 the science and the practice of hearing and listening to the wisdom that your body holds. And oftentimes, and we all have this, so we all have that capacity to, for our bodies are extremely wise, they're very resilient. um, they they have a natural ability to heal themselves and to recreate balance. And it's our job, according to Ayurveda, to support that movement towards, like I said earlier, ease, towards balance, towards harmony. And so the principles of Ayurveda is the opposites often bring balance. And so if we're feeling a certain way, what is the opposite quality or opposite um, texture that we need to create a more balance? So for example, if we feel cold, right? So there's cold in our bodies. Then cold, obviously the opposite is heat and warmth. And so if we are exhibiting signs and symptoms of something that is cold, then what makes sense is to bring in warm food, warm environments, warmer uh, thoughts, even, right? So it's not just physical, it can be, but it's very much the physical is really often the gateway. The body is the gateway to a deeper sense of self. So more the emotional bodies and the mental bodies and the to address that, because off will the physical body will give us signs and symptoms. It's often the last thing that comes to the surface. And it's, if we ignore it, it's often gets louder and louder and louder until we listen. And so it's
Mm.
really a matter of bringing in something that's opposite. And this is, also say it's often the thing that brings balance. It's not always. So depending on, everyone is different. So there's again, with Ayurveda, there's no one size fits all. There are certain principles and certain practices that are generally helpful to the human population, and we are all very different in our situations where we live, our lifestyles, our diets, our lineage, all of that is very, and our experiences. And so another principle in yoga is, or sorry, in Ayurveda is, um, you know, yoga, the goals of Ayurveda is to preserve health, to promote longevity, and to prevent dis-ease. And so I talked about that at the top of this call, is that how do you create ease in your body? And so that eventually it doesn't become like dis-ease, not feeling at ease. If you're not feeling at ease in your digestion, you're not feeling at ease in your menstrual cycle, for example, for women, it's often a sign or information that's really important to listen to, so that we can start to bring in the opposite quality. And so there's certain herbs, there's certain properties and qualities that will help relieve perhaps pain, like pain in a menstrual cycle. That could be something that you bring in. It's usually inflammation or heat. And so we want to bring in the opposite, something a little more cooling, something that is an herb, for example, that can uh, calm the nervous system, anxiety, and then reduce the heat. So it's kind of, there's layers to it. And again, the only answer that in Ayurveda is It depends. So when as someone asks me, if a client comes to me and asks me a question, okay, this is what's going on for me, I will almost always track it back to when that sign or symptom started. And then that gives me information of what happened in their life or what experience they had or what environmental situation for them changed that caused that that change, that shift. And so then we can start from there. And that's where it's a good way to know what that person needs. And
Mm,
I often
yeah.
say, yeah, the menstrual cycle, for if we want to go there, is, I say it's your monthly report card. And I feel in the West, we don't like the things that come out of our bodies. And it's often like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, we're shy about it, or we're embarrassed, or there's a stigma attached to, like, ooh, this.
Shame. Hmm.
Yeah, the shame, that exactly, and that has been, it's a societal, um, environmental and societal thing that has come into play, where it's like we should feel ashamed about our menstrual cycle, and or the things that come out of our bodies. And you look at the East, and they are not, that is a very, things come out of their bodies and they're proud of it. you know and there's something more about what comes out. It's better out than in, and I do say that in my
Yeah.
classes, with my clients, with my students. It is better out than in, because holding something in, and this in Ayurveda we call this ama, ama, and ama is a toxic, morbid waste product. So toxicity due to undigested food, for example. It can also be mental ama, which is an undigested experience or a trauma that we've had that we held into our, and it's being held in our bodies. And everything that is being held within, and we're avoiding expelling or eliminating, that is causing us more harm, and it's creating more toxicity, and then eventually disease. And so when the real premise of Ayurveda is to eliminate the toxicity, and there's a cycle that I like to speak about, that is every being does. And it's the ingest, digest, assimilate, eliminate. And if this cycle isn't continuing in smooth, in a harmonious pace, if we're simply ingesting, and we're not able to digest all the things that we're ingesting, then we more toxicity is built up inside our bodies and our minds. Absolutely. If we're not eliminating that which we have ingested in a timely manner, then that toxicity will build inside of us. And so, how to keep ourselves clear and clean, the channels clean. So, the physical channels, the mental channels, the emotional channels, and to all continue to eliminate and expel, get rid of the toxicity. So whether that's mucus in our sinuses, we use the neti pot in Ayurveda and Ayurvedic practices. So the saline solution, clearing out the nasal passages. Because germs and viruses and bacteria love mucus, as you know, and it's a very comfortable bed for them, so that they can create their lives and proliferate inside of us. Um, we want to clear out the digestive system. If what we're eating and we're not able to digest what we're eating, then it's better to start to track that and start to eat more digestible foods, so that we can increase what in Ayurveda we call Agni, which is the fire within us. So our digestive fire,
Mm.
sometimes it's very low in some people, sometimes it's very high, sometimes it's just right. It's like the three bears. So um,
Mm.
what kind of Agni you have is very dependent on how much you're able to eliminate as well. And so that's another key piece to Ayurveda.
Mm. And I know that there are sort of three classical body types. in Ayurveda as well, like the Vata, Pitta,
Kapha.
Kapha
Yes.
types.
Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, I've studied a little bit of
Great.
Ayurveda.
Good.
And
Beautiful.
so, talk to us a little bit about that. And also, I'm really intrigued by we talked about seasons a little bit and the seasonal
Hmm.
aspect of it
Okay, great.
and how that all relates.
Right. Good. So thank you for the question. The very basic understanding of Ayurveda that we tend to learn and teach first are the doshas, as what you just spoke about. And so, in sort of a layman's term or translation, is constitution. And so, we are a
Mm,
combination of three different constitutions. And like you just said them. So, Vata, which is air and space. And so when how I teach it is when you think of the elements in the world of air and space, and when air and space comes together, let's say just in weather, what happens? We get wind, right? So air and space together creates wind energy. And so if you are a wind energy person, a predominantly wind energy person, you will be you'll have tendencies towards being, get thrown around by the wind. You get discombobulated fairly easily. You change jobs, you change partners, you change locations, and so you love change because the winds of change. um,
okay.
yeah,
Guilty
there,
as charged. Yeah.
there's also qualities of um, dry, cold, mobile, rough. And so your body tends to exhibits mostly those qualities. So dry skin,
Mm,
dry, rough hair, rough nails, a rough, dry colon. So then end up, often you have a propensity towards constipation. So those kinds of things. And so that's Vata energy. And so Vata comes very frequently in our lives, actually. So anytime we jump on an airplane to go somewhere, Vata energy is high. Anytime we have a jolt to our nervous system, that is Vata energy. We get anytime that we are in really cold weather, you just go to Boston in the winter and you're like freezing cold. And so there's a lot of Vata wind, right? So if it's really windy, and when Vata is high, our nervous system also is thrown out of whack. And so that's where we end up with more anxiety and nervousness and worry. And that starts to build if we don't, like I said earlier, bring in the opposite quality. Okay. So that's one constitution. The second constitution is Pitta. Pitta is fire and water together. And so when fire and water come together, it creates steam. And so steam energy is that engine that just goes and goes and goes. And pittas are super focused. They get stuff done. They are, if you're a pitta person, if you're a pitta dominant energy person, you're very focused and you can start a task and you like to finish a task. And then you like to check it off, check the box off. You're like, done. I feel accomplished. And everything is perfect. And that's a really important word, is perfect, to pittas. They like things to be perfect. um, and then there's qualities of heat and spreading qualities, and kind of like lava. Hmm. And when pitta is too high, then we end up having a little bit of um, inflammation. We tend to towards inflammation, or we tend to think too much. Pittas, if they don't sleep before 10 p.m., then they're on to the next project, and they can go 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 until 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning when vata is high, and then they end up going to sleep, or burning out. And that's where the name of your podcast, this is the burnout. And burnout comes from that overdrive and the doing too much, and the not slowing down enough and creating the balance, bringing in the pause and bringing the opposite qualities of Pitta. So, opposite qualities of Pitta are
Mm,
cooling and slowing down, and um, also bringing in more qualities of emotional qualities of that that perfection does not exist, and I think society really encourages Pitta people because when we think of success, quote unquote,
mhm,
we I mean that's a Pitta person. Pitta, they're the CEOs,
mhm,
they climb the corporate ladders, they are the doers, the the they get they make things happen, they're the entrepreneurs.
mm,
And so pittas are rewarded in our society, definitely. And so the drive to continue doing that is a very uh, uh, tantalizing experience. It's like, okay, well, I'm getting rewarded for this, so I'm going to just keep doing it until we burn out. And I think this is very specific. I would like to just bring this in specific for women because men have they're more solar. They have solar energy. And in yoga, if you think of yoga therapy, men have a very masculine energy, is a very solar energy. So they're pitta, they're
mm,
heat. They have a better container. They can contain heat better.
mm,
Whereas women, we come from a lunar energy. We have a lunar cycle. We have our moon cycle. We have menstruation. We're more a cooler moon energy. And so we don't have the container necessarily for that much heat. And so we're cooler. And so we actually want to retain some heat, but also maintain enough sustainable heat. And that takes pacing and rest and sleep and replenishing what I call the feminine waters because we're more water energy. And that brings me to the third
mm,
constitution, which is Kapha, right? Or some people call it Kapha. And so Kapha or Kapha energy is water and earth. And if you think of water and earth, it's like unctuous, it's mud energy. And the mud energy is cool and is nourishing and it's uh, so vital for our planetary well-being. Mother Earth is Kapha energy. She is so stable, and there's a stability to Kapha energy that women um, naturally are drawn to, and that we resource ourselves from that kind of energy. And so women who are cooler earth energy by nature, if they're more kapha by nature, they're actually a luckier uh, sister because they have more energy to put forth, to feed, right? So we nourish the others. And those of us who are more on the Vata side or the Pitta side, we're more on that masculine energy side and that propensity to do more and to um, change. And so, what we really need to do is bring in more of this Mother Earth kapha energy in our lives, and that's what I support women in doing, is like more of the nourishing and what we do at the retreat center. And I think of Mother Nature, I think of Costa Rica, I think of a lot of natural places that where nature is really abundant. And that is why more often than not, women feel, when they go to these places, we feel revitalized, we feel rejuvenated, we feel like we can, okay, I'm ready to go back to work and go back to family and doing whatever we need to do because we have naturally replenished that inner resource that we already have that's within us.
Mm.
So that's a long answer
Yeah,
to your
that's
question.
no, that's beautiful. It's perfect. It's amazing. So, yeah, we're gonna switch gears a little bit because I would love to talk about your journey
Mm,
and your personal experience. And with all of these amazing resources and tools at your disposal, you still ended up going through burnout. And
mhm,
then you decided to write a book about it. So,
mhm.
talk to us a little bit about that trajectory and that transition and how you went into burnout, came out of it, decided to write the book, and I love to hear more about the title of the book.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes, I I think part of the reason why I wrote the book was because I wanted people to see and read that this journey towards where I am now, which is a place of nourishment and ease and abundance, doesn't happen overnight. And it n- most often does not happen in a linear path, in a linear way. And I wanted people to know that the people, like, they think that I've always been this way. And it's like, no, I went through deep burnout, depletion, and cycles of depletion. And it took me years to actually recover. And it took me Ayurveda, actually, the meeting of Ayurveda and really implementing Ayurveda in my life to actually recover from that. And so, as a yoga teacher, very young, I was a fitness instructor very young. And then I was a teacher, I was a middle school teacher, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I had this uh, desire for something more, and it was something I didn't know and I didn't learn. As an immigrant daughter, you're just sort of, you're told this is what you want to do, this is what you should do, you should. There's a lot of shoulding on you.
Mhm.
And you live in this very conditioned world where you believe this path is the right path for you, until one day I
Mhm.
looked up and I was on a path that didn't feel nourishing, fulfilling, aligned, satisfying in any way. And while I knew I was a good teacher and I enjoyed it and I loved being with the kids, the the experience of teaching, um, like the environment, wasn't conducive to caring for myself. And this is exactly what I was talking about at the top of the call. It's like, how do you actually know, fulfill your needs before you can start to serve others and care for others? And this is like you just said, you said, fill your own, or put your own oxygen mask on first, right? And so I had to learn that the hard way. And so I ended up quitting teaching, and I went on traveling. And as I was teaching yoga and school at the same time, I thought, okay, let me go deeper into this yoga stuff. And, because I was teaching yoga at the beginning as a very physical practice. And I did not know too much of the deeper meaning behind it until I quit teaching and I went to India. And I went to India and I asked my yogi uncle, I said, oh, I'm here. Wait, why are you here? I'm here to study yoga. Well, what? He's like, Beta, you do not study yoga. We are yoga. And that at the time didn't really hit me, but over the years, after so many more times of burnout, I uh, I was teaching 40 classes a week in my yoga studio, and I was in other places, and I was uh, in a marriage that wasn't that fulfilling. I was in a town where I didn't, you know, uh, love. I didn't feel like it was giving me uh, the same nourishment that I was giving it. I was giving a lot to the town, I was giving a lot to the community, and I didn't feel like I was able to get as much back in my relationships and with my career and in my job. And I completely burnt out. And I left my marriage, I left this town, I left my studio, I left my community, and I moved to the US, I moved to the States, and I started again. But before I started again, I took time to really dive into Ayurveda, dive into the yoga, and start practicing these practices myself and giving my knowing what my body was saying. I had all the signs and symptoms. It was dry, I was constipated, I wasn't very, feeling very nourished. My skin, lots of things were not um, at ease. Everything, my cycles, my nervous system was completely shot. And so how much it took, how long it took really was 4 years, I would say, to really start to recalibrate my nervous system, to pause. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to not have to go back right away to work. And I was able to travel, and I was able
Hmm.
to find people, teachers, resources, doctors, um, you know, uh, the Ayurvedic medicine doctors, Oriental medicine doctors, energy workers. I lived in Santa Fe, or in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. I went to
Mm.
the Ayurvedic Institute. I learned with Dr. Lad, like, so some of the most um, the experts really in their field, and to be able to learn from them and then able to practice those practices and embody those practices myself. That was the gift that allowed me to recover, to heal, to um, find myself again, and really the truest nature of who I was. And then I could start to reinvent myself and start to recreate my environment how I wanted to recreate it, in order for it to feed me and nourish me in a way that I needed. So that I started, um, and so then I moved to the U.S. I did that, and then I moved to Costa Rica, and I would say I would say that it didn't just happen. I didn't just move to the States and then, okay, now I'm healed. It took that time. And I also slipped up. I got into relationships that didn't nourish me, and I fell into a job situation that wasn't very fulfilling. And so, like, there were slip ups, within that time. But what I realized, and what I often teach my clients, is, what are you doing, being, eating, drinking? What are all the things, your environment, is it contributing to the fabric of your well-being, or is it depleting it? And that's the only question that I really started to, if you can start to give yourself more experiences that contribute to the fabric of your well-being, then over time, slowly, you will heal, you will recover, you will find ease again, and you will move yourself out of that burnout state, because it took a long time to get into the burnout state. So why would it just be a magic overnight pill to come out of the burnout state? Right? And so,
100%.
yeah, so it does take time and effort and discernment. Is this person, this experience, this food, this drink, this drug, whatever it is it is it contributing to the fabric of my well-being, or is it depleting it? And then when I moved to
Mm.
Costa Rica, I still, again, I thought this was it. Okay, I'm going to heal fully. This is going to be it. And I was much more discerning about how much I taught yoga. So that was very helpful. I really had to sustain my energy versus give it all away at once. And I had to rebuild my energetic field and my nervous system. And so was really helpful. Was eating great, amazing local food that was, fresh and nourishing. I knew in Ayurveda what I needed to eat and what I should have avoided. And so that was really helpful. And I was sleeping, and I was with the circadian rhythms of nature, so waking up with the sun, and going to bed with the sun. And in Costa Rica, because it's so close to the equator, we that is such the circadian rhythms are are really the closest to nature that I've ever been and I've ever lived. So that has been a really beautiful practice for me that has been able to replenish um, my my resources. And so then I decided to write my
Mm.
book because it was here it is. And, I've gotten great feedback about how it's been sort of almost my experience has been a workbook for others. They resonated with this experience. We all go through these cycles of slipping up and burnout and, you know, uh, depression or anxiety or thinking this isn't right, this doesn't feel right. And in those moments, where I explain in my book is all these like very pivotal moments in my life that were there to show me, okay, where's your North Star, and then recalibrate to facing the direction that you really want to go on your path. And it's just taking those small course corrections over time that get you to the end result that you really want.
Mm,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. So, talk to us about the title of the book and how that came to you and what the significance of that is.
Mhm. Thanks. Unbound. So the book is called Unbound: An Immigrant Daughter's Journey of Reckoning, Unraveling Shame, and Reclaiming Her Worth. Like I said earlier, my mother is Chinese. So my dad is from India, and my mom is Chinese. And grandmother's her Chinese grandmother, her feet were bound in China.
Mm.
And so this is an old traditional practice that was about taking young girls' feet, soaking the feet, and then breaking the bones and binding them so that they're a very small size. What was ideal, quote unquote, was 3-inch feet. And so if they got the closest to 3 inches, then they were considered the most marriageable, the most desirable, the most yeah successful. And like I said, this is our traditions of what we believe success means, right? And um and so my grandmother, my mom's mom, ran away, and she escaped that foot binding fate. And so moved away. She ran away to Malaysia, where my mom was born. So my mom and her sisters also escaped that same fate because they were in that same era where foot binding was just uh, they were going without, but some of the more affluent families were still doing foot binding, all the way to 60s, 70s. I know the last foot binding shoe factory closed down in the 90s. So it was a long standing tradition. And yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So uh, I think there's a lot to be said about tradition, about generational trauma. And so when I think about my mom's experience, my grandmother's experience, and then my experience here. So my mom was an immigrant. She moved away, she grew up in Singapore. She moved to England, and then where she met my father. They eventually moved to Canada, where I was born. And I do believe, even though I have bigger size 6 unbound feet, uh, I was still walking on eggshells. I was still walking with a fear that wasn't mine, a trepidation that was looking to escape or run away from something. And when I talk about in my book, it was like, what am I actually running away from? And I moved countries, I moved jobs, I moved relationships. I changed so many things about my environment. And yet what was always with me was me. And so wherever you go, there you are. And so I had to take a deep look and a deep dive at myself and what it was that I was doing, how I was behaving, what I believed, really truly believed about myself, that needed to be left behind. And I coined that term immigilt in my book. So it's like, what is the
Mm.
the immigilt that I carried, that my grandmother carried and yet she escaped, that my mother carried and yet she moved away from, and that I still carried as well. And I was able to break this pattern because I had the privilege, the insight. I was born in a generation where there was no war, there was no, I was fortunate enough to not have trauma in my life. And so for me, big T trauma. And so for me, it was, can I feel safe enough in my own skin that I can drop this immigrant backpack and just, it's not mine, and let it go and have a lighter load as I walk with my very unbound feet on my own path that I knew was meant for me, which was aligned, feeling fulfilled. And I had struggled my whole life to find, because I kept carrying this immigrant backpack that kept holding me back from actually following what I knew was true for me. And so this is my story.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna steal that word for sure. Immigrants. Yeah, I'm also a daughter of immigrants, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, wow, what an incredible story and what an incredible journey. And I have so loved having you on the show. We have one more little segment of the show called the rapid fire segment, where
Uh-oh.
I
Okay.
just ask you some short, quick questions and you just answer from the heart, and
Okay.
we'll see where it's gonna take us.
Sounds
Yeah.
great.
So, are you a morning person or night owl? And what does that say about your Ayurvedic type?
Yeah, interesting. I am definitely a morning person, and especially in Costa Rica. I don't know how I explained it. Um, what that says about my is that I'm a Vata dominant person, and I'm a Vata Pitta, and I do have to really watch my Vata. But Vata is at its highest in the morning and before dawn. And so when you wake up before 6 a.m., it's actually so supportive, Vata, because Vata's movement. And so I am awake and I wake up easily. And I feel motivated and to do and get things done. If I go back to sleep at 6 or after 6, I'm down, because then it's kapha time and it's heavy. Yeah.
Yes. And what,
Yeah.
so if you're a night owl, what does that mean
Night
for us?
owls
For
is that you're a pitta person, pitta dominant. So that
mm,
means when you stay
mm,
awake over past 10 p.m. and you're not in bed or you're not asleep, that means your brain is refiring, the heat is coming on, the engine, the steam is back in on, and you can just go, go, go until vata time, which is 2 a.m. Yeah.
oh
You can,
dear. Yeah,
yeah, finish that
that's a bit
project,
me, but
clean the house, do that. Yeah. Get the
I don't
podcast
know.
edited.
I'm I'm aspiring to be more of a morning person. We'll see if I can shift things.
Yeah. So the idea is to go to
Okay.
bed. The idea is go to bed before
Yeah,
10.
I
Yeah.
know. I know. I
Yeah.
know. I'm gonna
Yeah.
try.
It's a discipline for sure.
um, what is an Ayurvedic ritual that you never skip, even on if you're
Ooh.
having a bad day?
Oh my goodness. So good. Uh, hot water in the morning, tongue scraping, neti pot.
Ooh, okay, the trifecta. I love it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, can you tell that someone is burning out just by looking at them? And what do you
Yes.
notice?
Ooh. Yes. Worry lines on their forehead, bags under their eyes, so that's kidney, or the dark circles. Right away, that's an instant sign is adrenal fatigue. Mhm,
Hmm.
mhm.
What is a word that you would banish from the wellness industry vocabulary?
Ooh, I love this one. Should and try.
Oh,
I call it, yeah,
Okay.
I call it the
Okay.
S word and the T word, shoulding, because when we're shoulding on ourselves, no matter what, oh, I should do this, I should do that. And now we, let's say we learned all these things, we went to this workshop and we have all this wellness tools, and I should do this and should do that and shouldn't, and I keep shoulding on myself, and that just creates more ama and not feeling at ease. And so it's like one or two things for sure a day, and that's it. So you give yourself some grace on that and try, because Yoda said it, right? Try, what is it? It's, there is no try. It
Do or
do
do
or
not.
don't,
There
do
is
or
no
do not.
try.
Right. And so in yoga, or in Ayurveda and all that, it's do it. Do the practice. Don't just try it, because it's not a magic pill. So doing it for 7 days, for 14 days, for 30 days, and then doing it and doing it and doing it, and then it becomes this habit. That's the way you're going to see change, and if your body, how your body responds to that practice.
Hmm. Okay, this
Mhm,
is a wild question, but
mhm.
if burnout had a smell, what would it be?
Mm. Ooh, I love this one. Um, the first hit that came to me is sour. Like a
Hmm.
sour, sickly sour smell. And
Hmm.
and actually you can smell it in yourself, if you work out or you sweat, or and that's the toxicity that's coming out. And sometimes you'll smell it when you're doing like a hot yoga, or you're in a sauna or something like that. And that smell is like, it's like you're burning out.
Mm. So if you exercise or you go to a sauna, do hot yoga,
And
and
you
everything smells
smell.
good, you're doing okay.
Yes, yes, and
Because
yes,
I feel
exactly.
like lately I'm good. Like I
Yeah,
don't I sweat a lot, but it doesn't
good.
smell bad. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
good. Yeah,
okay,
we want to sweat. We want to sweat a lot.
yeah,
You want, like I said at the beginning,
yeah.
excretions. We want them. You want your mucus to be clear and come out of you. You want your pee to be fairly like not a lot of smell to it. Your feces, not a lot of smell to it. It's just that it comes out of you, and it's clearing the channels. You are doing well. Even your menstrual
Awesome.
blood, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So if a woman finishes listening to this episode and does exactly one thing tomorrow, what should it be?
Hmm. Wake up, drink hot water, and then make a plan to go to bed before 10 p.m. I know that's more
Okay,
than one
I
thing.
need to, yeah. So I
But
wake up, I drink iced coffee, and then I go to bed around midnight. So I'm totally screwed. But I'm gonna work on it after this episode, Serena. This was
okay.
so amazing.
I
I
love that.
love this episode for so many reasons. I feel like we touched on very different themes and elements and aspects of burnout that we don't usually talk about on this show. And I feel like
Yeah.
we've given people so many ideas and inspiration and tools and avenues they can explore to get more in touch with who they are and their bodies, and listening and tuning in and making the necessary changes and adjustments and letting go of that immigilt.
Yes.
So
So,
I am just so thrilled that you came on the show today. And if folks want to connect with you, which I'm sure they will after
mm,
listening, how can they do that?
thank you so much. Yes, I agree. This has been a really beautiful conversation. Thank you so much. And that is the goal, is to help people really find that connection. So for me, I'm at Serena Arora, Arora. There's no U in it, .com. And I would love to support people I'm running a retreat coming up in October, and it is exactly this. It's exactly diving into the practices of self-care what are practices for you specifically that are most effective for you, and then embodying it, learning it, embodying it in the retreat that we go to. It's all included. The retreat, the Costa Rica retreats included in the program and the online program, and the community as well, knowing that because we all fall off the wagon. And so, yes, it's great to implement some things. And how do we sustain that over time so that wellness can be sustained as we age, and we can age in a way that we are listening to our bodies, because we're moving into those seasons we talked about. Each season that we're in, we can have a community that we feel is supporting us in that transition, in that season.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So and we'll put all of this in the show notes for people. So if you are listening to this episode and you loved it as much as I did, go ahead and leave us a like, a review, 5 stars, whatever, and share it with a friend who might need to hear this message, someone who might be curious about yoga, yoga therapy, Ayurveda, all of the beautiful things we talked about today. Because when you share an episode, it really does help more people discover the podcast, and it really helps us reach more women, which is our goal. And
Yes.
of course, as always, remember that burnout is not your destiny, it's your wake up call.
Mm.